First and foremost, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem, Rakak Wadash. Yahweh is to this world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh Shai is to this world ignorantly calls Jesus. Ba'Hashem means in the name, Rakah means spirit, and Kodash means holy. And that's all in the Paleo Hebrew. I also want to give double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Today's video, I wanted to talk about this episode of Black Mirror, season 7 that just came out, and just going into how prophetic this episode is. And when you actually look at all these Black Mirror, episodes, this entire show, it's really prophetic. It shows you technocracy, shows you pretty much all types of, fucked up situations where this world could lead to. One that was really interesting was there's one where all people were essentially living like a monotonous life, right? So they would have their little cells where they live in, and every single part of their cell was like a TV. And to just like go through the TV or just go through like apps, all types of ads will pop up, literally insane type of ads, where they had to pay to get past the ads. But the whole part of that show was everybody lived an inside life. Everybody lived, their whole life was just walking on the treadmill to get coins. And if you let Esau Edom rule long enough, that's what this world is going to lead to. It's going to lead to everybody being distant, everybody being online. That's why they're pushing this Apple Vision Pro, the VR realm. It's to keep the people locked in, right? Which is ultimately keeping the people controlled. But you could go watch that episode if you can, through what I said, discern what episode it is. But this episode that just came out is called Common People. And I'm going to do a massive spoiler about what it's about. I'm going to read this article that details it. But essentially, it was showing you the capabilities that the chip is going to be able to do. Right? This right here, is a glimpse of what Esau Edom can actually do to people through that chip. So let's first go into what the episode was. It says in the episode, O'Dowd and Joes played Mike and Amanda, respectively, a couple living a happy and simple life until Amanda suffers a frightening medical emergency and passes out. It is revealed that Amanda has a brain tumor and may never regain consciousness. The hospital refers to Mike Gaynor Ross, a representative for Rivermind, a tech company that will clone Amanda's brain, save it on their server, and then stream her consciousness back into her body. Right, so that right there, right, going into putting the consciousness on a machine, right? And these elites want to do that. They want to be able to upload themselves so that way they can live forever, right? That's the whole plan of these Edomites, is that they want to be like the Most High. Let's get that in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, or 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. And verse 3 says, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition." Right? And that man of sin is going into these Edomites, right? Right now they are being revealed, right, through the prophets, the holy men out here, bringing out the information about how they're not really Caucasian or American or Greek or Roman. They're actually Edomites. And that's part of the history that they try to hide so dearly, because they know, what is connected to Esau Edom, right? To live by the sword, take everything by force, and to be the wicked of the earth. Verse 4, "Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." Right? So these Edomites have that God complex. Right? A perfect example of that is this guy Brian Johnson. Right? This Edomite, super millionaire. I think the creator of Venmo, who pretty much he's dedicated his life to try to live as long as possible, try to be immortal. And this dude, has injected himself with the plasma of his son. This dude takes roughly 50 pills a day, does all types of, surgeries, procedures to try to live longer. Little does he know is that, hey, the Most High is the one that issues life and death. And, I feel like the Most High, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, is going to make a real mockery of that guy. He's going to have it so, this guy dies in a car accident or something. Something, random, to show you that it doesn't matter how much you try to live, how long you try to prolong your life. The Lord is the one that controls it. He's going to be doing all these health protocols to just die in a car accident. So that's just my belief. But back to the point, these Edomites have that God complex. Okay, and that's part of uploading your consciousness. So they ended up doing that in this episode. It says the only catch is that Amanda will require more hours of sleep, and the subscription-based Rivermind plan costs $300 a month, something Mike and Amanda can't afford. Right, and as you watch the episode, the reason why she was required to sleep more is because they were actually using her brain while she was so-called in that sleep mode as processing power. Right, they were literally utilizing her as power. And a perfect example of that is when you watch the movie The Matrix. Right, when Neo finally plugs out of the simulation, and he pretty much comes out of that shell, that egg. He realizes that all the people that were in his so-called life, when he was in that simulation, every single one of them is being used as energy, right? The aliens, as you can call them, right, were using his mind as energy. Let's search that up. Matrix energy. Matrix energy scene. Aliens. Right here. So he ended up coming out of that, egg, and all the people that were in his so-called real life, it was all a simulation, and they were all being used as energy. Right? That's exactly what, is being portrayed in this episode. Right? It says in the subscription-based Riverman plan costs $300 a month. Right? So that right there also. Right? They were charging her now to live. Right? And that's eventually what life is going to lead to if these Edomites have their hand. Right? They're going to make it so everything costs. And we already see that now. It costs money to get water. Something that is free. It costs money to, live somewhere. Right? A house. When, nature, who owns nature? These Edomites don't own nature. Nobody owns this earth. Right? It's the Most High's. So how are you going to, take a landmass and charge somebody to just be there? That's wicked. But, everything that is free nowadays, you're getting charged for it. And, through that brain technology, which is ultimately what is already developed, the Neuralink, I wouldn't be surprised if they do something like this. A tier-based rank system where the more you pay, the more access to features you have. And when you keep watching this episode, you find that one of the features was to be able to control your mood, right? So there's they had an application that pretty much there's all different types of emotions, right? You had the nonchalance, you had the pleasure, you had serenity, right? You had pain, and you could pretty much dial it up a notch. There's a bar on it, and what they showed you right there is is actually doable. Right? Because these scientists have concluded that, emotions and all that is neurological. It's some type of chemical reaction in the brain that they could probably pinpoint. And if they were able to pinpoint it, they could just set a false signal to the brain to make it seem like, it's a pleasure signal, max it out. So, hey, all these things are going to happen. Scriptures talk about how, hey, this devil is going to deceive the masses with those great miracles. And I'm going to go to the scriptures once I read through all this just to get the context. But it says, as with any subscription-based service, new more expensive Rivermind tiers are introduced. Mike and Amanda are stuck on the Rivermind common level, which leads to Amanda unconsciously saying contextually relevant ads throughout the day, almost costing her teaching job. Right? So they ended up starting to plug her. Right? So since they pretty much had control of her mind, they're starting to run ads through her, Right, so she'd be in a situation, and next thing you know, she's talking about how you could buy the latest honey nugs from this company, blah blah blah, and they're running ads through her, right? They're using her, and she never signed up for that. That's something that they just implemented out of nowhere. Same way that when you keep watching the show, the basic river mine common level that they were on, it starts becoming worse and worse as the tiers start going up. So at first, she didn't have no ads. Second, they tell her that, oh yeah, you can't leave this region because we don't have the cell towers to, pretty much connect you to the database. And if you leave, you pretty much become dead, right? You lose that connection. So they limited her ability to move, right? And then they started running ads on her, right? And they were charging her the entire time for this. That's another thing, completely insane. But it says they upgrade the Rivermine subscription, and to help pay for it, Mike, who is a welder by day, starts making side money on Dumb Dummies, a streaming video site where users pay to watch people hurt themselves. Right, and that's where it pretty much takes a turn. This dude, the husband, pretty much starts, pulling his teeth to get money. So people on that website pretty much pay you to do all types of stunts, right? So if you pull your teeth, they'll pay you $100, $200, $500, $1,000 to do that. And as the more degrading the acts become, the more they pay, and that's what he resorted to. And at the end of the show, you could just see this dude, missing a bunch of teeth, and with a razor in his hand. So who knows what he ended up doing. But one thing that it ultimately ended with is that the chick just ended up taking her life because she realized that it's better to just end it than to live this reality. And that's something that these people are going to start realizing, is that the wicked are in authority. And it says that when the wicked are in authority, let's get that. Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 2, it says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Right? And we're starting to see that. We're starting to see the beginning of that, is the people mourning, right? Because there's a righteous, that's Satan right there. There's a wicked as government ruling the world, and ultimately a wicked people. Okay, and if there's wicked people, that means that there's going to be wicked policies. So when these people see that, they can't, afford to live, they're working 3 jobs to support their family, and it's still not enough, a lot of people are just going to opt themselves out. They're just going to end it because they'd rather die than live this existence. Okay, and when people talk about hell, hell, we're going to go to hell if you don't believe, there is no such thing as hell. Right now, we're living hell. Okay, it's hell on earth. Okay, hell has 2 definitions. It means either the grave or a bad condition. So an example is if somebody says, damn, he's going through hell, it means he's going through a bad situation. And right now, we are living in the worst situations that humanity has ever seen. And it's only going to get worse. So, hey, just wait till Jacob's trouble comes upon this world, right? The time like never before seen. And start seeing how these people just start offing themselves left and right, right? Because that's an easier solution for them. But yeah, I think it ends there. She ended up just ending herself. But let's go into the scriptures now, and let's connect it to the prophecies, because it is prophesied that there is going to be a mark, mark of the beast, which is the chip that is going to go in the forehead and in the hand. And through that, the elite are going to have complete control over the masses. So, start of Revelation chapter 13 and verse 11, it says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Right? And that beast is symbolic for America when you go into it. Right? An example of, beasts being symbolic for kingdoms is when you go and read Daniel, the 7th chapter. Right? It goes into how 4 great beasts came out of the earth. And at the end, of that chapter, the angel breaks down the vision and tells Daniel that, those great beasts are symbolic for kings, which ultimately was empires. Okay, first beast was the Assyrian Babylonian Empire, The second beast was the Medo-Persian Empire. The third beast was the Greek Empire. And the fourth beast was the Roman Empire, which right now we're still in that fourth beast. Okay, the Roman Empire. This is called America. And that's going to tie exactly to this. So it says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Right, the 2 horns like a lamb is going into this left and right democracy. Right, the left wing and the right wing. But guess what? They're both part of the same bird. Right, 2 horns of a lamb. They're still that same animal. At the top, the elite control both sides. It's called controlled opposition. And it says, and he spake as a dragon. Right, so going into speaking pretty much with great authority. Right, when you go into, I think it's Daniel chapter 2, and it goes into how the little horn, had more of a stout look than its fellows, its partners. That little horn is going into America. Right, and America has that prideful, countenance. Okay, America thinks that it's the shit. When America is in this UN, these United Nations meetings, America is pretty much looking at all these other nations as below. Right? It has that stout look, prideful look. So, dragon also resembles a power, right? And, America is known as ruling with an iron fist. Verse 12, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Right? And who is the first beast? The ancient Roman Empire that fell. Right? America exercises all that power. Right? America resembles ancient Rome. Does exactly what ancient Rome used to do. Right? When you look at the architecture, when you look at, the Senate, all that came from the Greeks and Romans, the first beast. Okay, and he says, whose deadly wound was healed, right? Because ancient Rome fell, right? That was the deadly wound. But how was it healed? Through America, okay? Through this beast, it came back. It says, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, right? And those great wonders is possible by the way of the system, right? This technology, okay? Esau can literally make fire come down from heaven, right? Through his holograms, or through some type of, pyrotechnic scheme, fireworks. He can literally make fire come down from heaven. It says, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. Right, so they're going to deceive the masses by the means of those miracles, which they had power to do in the sight of the beast, right, the system. And that's the point, is that they're going to be able to deceive a lot of people by the means of this chip technology, right? When Elon Musk with his Neuralink is talking about he's going to be able to make blind people able to see again, he's not lying. They're going to be able to do those things, make paraplegic people, right, never able to use their legs, able to walk again, sprint, run, go up hills, mountains, right? They're going to be able to do all those things and more. That's why, when I saw in that show that they're able to control emotions, I don't doubt it. Right? That's what's going to really get the people. But guess what? It's a deception. Because if you take that chip, you're slated for destruction. Okay, you are going to catch a nuclear missile. That is the lake of fire that is talked about in the scriptures. So it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Or at the end of 14, it says, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make... Actually, I'll read 15. It's the same thing. It says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Right? What is the image of the beast? Right? When you go into an image, it's going into a vision, right? A plan. Okay, and the plan of the beast, of these people up top, is ultimately the NWO. Right, full control over the people, 15-minute smart cities, right, electric cars. The reason they're going all electric is because if they have everything, all the cars electric, that means that they can remotely turn them off. That's why they're pushing that electric so hard, right? So the image of the beast is that NWO, right? The elite controlling everybody through that chip, full domination. And if you don't bow down to that image, if you don't follow with their plan, they're just going to get rid of you. Right, that's where that great persecution is going to come. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Right? That mark is going into the chip. It's going to be in the right hand or any hand or in the forehead. Right? The forehead one we're seeing is the Neuralink, and the one in the hand, which hasn't been made globally yet, is ultimately going to be the chip in the hand. Right? And it says that without that, you're not going to be able to buy or sell, because the chip is going to be the next debit card. You see, everything started with cash. After cash, we started rolling out into, credit cards, debit cards. What was the next progression after that? Paying on the phone, Apple Pay. What was the next progression after that? Amazon One, paying with your palm. And the next progression after that is the chip. Right? The chip is just going to be another way of payment. And just as, the payment systems have came and gone, as the new ones come, first is going to be an option. But after time, it's going to be mandatory. Right? Try going to, a restaurant today and paying with a check. They're not going to accept it because that's the old way. Right? Everything evolves, and, the new eventually becomes the mandatory. So the chip will first be an option, and then it will be mandatory. And without that chip, you're not going to be able to make your purchases, because all your information is going to be on that chip. Right? It's going to have your driver's license, your medical information, your bank information, everything about you is going to be on that chip. So if you don't take it, you're ultimately plugged out of the system. And, that's where that real test is going to come is, do you have enough faith to trust in the Lord to take care of you in everything? Not trusting in the system at all and just being taken care of. A lot of people are going to fold. I'll tell you that. Let's get that into Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 20. Going into how in that day we're going to have to trust the Lord. Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 20 says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel, and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob, shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God. Right? And only the remnant, the elect, are going to believe, and have faith in the Lord. That's going into 1/3 of his people. Right? The rest, 2/3 of his people, the wicked, 2/3 being 66.6 repeating, that's not, coincidental. They're the ones that are going to be destroyed, because they're not going to repent, they're not going to get right, and ultimately they're going to go down to those stations and take that chip in order to receive of Esau's goodies, not knowing that Esau's goodies are poisonous. The goodies he's giving you are cankered, right? They're going to destroy you. But the key point, it says that the remnant of Israel are not gonna, shall no more again stay upon him that smote them. Right? Who are those that have smote us, right? Stricken us, beat us? These Edomites, these other nations. Right? So there's going to be a time where we don't rely upon these other nations. We don't rely upon this government. We rely strictly on Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. And that day is going to be the day of Jacob's trouble. Right? The day when they make that chip mandatory. So ultimately the Lord is going to take care of his people, and you got to have a full assurance in that. But that was a quick video going into this episode. Esau always makes these videos, with a certain intention, that predictive programming, putting it in your mind what's going to happen before it happens. So when it does happen, you're subconsciously prepared. But hey, hopefully this is edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Rakakwadash, and double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Shalom to you, like Shalom.